Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of my game dev diary for this roguelike project. It's probably been maybe about 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours of coding I've done since the last video. I kind of ran into a bit of a problem with some bugs, namely with the the barrel creation, so like the blue barrel and the yellow kind of cup thing, and then the monsters and the spikes creations, and sometimes it wasn't working just quite as I thought it would and how I needed it to, especially when I went to add in what I've called special environment items, and that's what I'm looking for now because I have got it to actually work. So you can see here to the wee character's right there is a red switch, and if I walk into it, it has turned green, and the stairs down here, if you were looking before, were a black square, and now they are stairs, so we should be able to walk on them, and it should take us back to the first room of the dungeon, but with a different layout, so it's like you're getting deeper and deeper and deeper into the dungeon. So it wasn't actually that kind of much new code. Again, the way I've done it meant that I could copy and repeat a lot of the item monster generation for the switch and for the stairs. So I just want to show you that again and make sure for myself that it's working, because I've had a fair few nightmares with it. Because there's so many events going on now, there has to be first of all, I'll run through this with the code, that the items get generated, then the monsters get generated, and then the stairs and switch. Because there's a lot going on and we need to do it in a certain order, or I'd programmed it to do it in a certain order, sometimes the order was getting switched around and then it was falling over itself and crashing the code. So that made it quite annoying, because it was just sometimes that it wouldn't work, and there's nothing worse when you're coding where it sometimes does work and sometimes doesn't work, because then it's really hard to find out why it doesn't work. So I found the stairs, I can't find the switch, and as you can see, if we go back into this room, the stairs are the square box saying that they're locked, so you touch them, nothing happens. And if we can find the switch and touch the switch, there we go. See, there should ideally be items and monsters in this room, and there's not, and I have no idea why. So again, I haven't fixed all the bugs, which is a bit annoying. I thought I had, so I'll have to go through, and I don't quite like recording videos when I'm kind of bug hunting, because you're barking up the wrong tree half the time. So this might work. The switch goes to green, and then hopefully, I just want to check. Go back in here. Yeah, the switch is still green, which it should be, and now we can go down the stairs. So on the face of it, I've got quite a lot of the basic structure in there. As you can see, still haven't got it where you can kill a character. I'll probably implement that last, because I want to make sure that you can explore the dungeon and it's correctly being generated. So I'll run through the code for the rest of this video and what's actually going on. I've found see, this is the way the room should have been. It should have been full of enemies and spikes and the barrels, but it wasn't. I have no idea why that is the case. It's a bit annoying. So we've got hit the switch, so if we find the stairs and walk into the stairs, then it should take us to the next level. So it just kind of repeats this process until well, it just keeps going on for the minute. So I just want a quick look at the logs here to see the second one, if anything was wrong with it. So that was okay. And then no errors anyway. This is a bit annoying. I was hoping it would tell us an error so we know why the room just had a switch and nothing else. It's a bit frustrating. But I'll go through the switch and stair generation now. So I changed the code a wee bit to try and make it a bit more clear what's going on. Stairs to dungeons mostly the same, except now it doesn't generate the dungeon when created like it did. You can see this bit of code now, the tick's not in it, so it only does this bit of code on collision. Well, originally it did this bit of code on collision with the actor type, but now what it does, because we are not just doing it one time, we're going deeper and deeper into the dungeon as you go down the stairs. You and this is the switch at the get item 0 from the environment special items. If it's equal to 1, that means the switch has been hit, so then that you can say you can go down the stairs. Or for the first level it is set to 1 anyway, so you can go down the stairs. What's with the green background, the very first, when the game loads up, this is set equal to 1, or when you hit the switch this is set equal to 1. And then the first collide boolean is just your usual to make sure the collision only happens once. What it does is it makes sure all the dungeon lists are filled with zeros. It empties all the room lists, and then it triggers the event do all gen in stairs to dungeon, which is in here, and that's the bit of code, exactly the same bit of code that was in the created before. So it's just now an event rather than right on the start of being created. And then once that's done, then it does these events, which is the S2D2 normal things. And at the bottom of S2D2, rather than calling the monster sign in the S2D2, what it does is, as at the bottom of S2D2 there is a bit of code that says we've done this event, so it triggered DIC and behavior stairs to dungeon. So it's just saying I've done this bit of code, and in stairs to dungeon DIC is, it's just a wee counter, and it's saying because we need, that's each one of the events, so it'll happen 5 times because we've got D1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 for each of the dungeon lists. So this DIC event will be triggered 5 times, and on the 5th time then it says if DI counter is equal or greater than 5, then do the monster signs. And exactly the same thing at the bottom of the monster signs event. This is where the monsters get assigned. Then you do add 1 in the environmental special item gen, and then it's the same sort of idea. Add 1 is just an event counter, and once it gets to 5 then we do gen for the environmental special item, which is here. And what it does is, we said the switch, remember in the monster sign and the barrel sign there's an item, there's a comment here, that's why 12 was because there's 12 types of items. So it's this one here. If it's 15 to 17 then it's a certain type of enemy, so I think 15 is rat, 16 is bat, and 17 was the rat archer. So now that's set to 100, and 100 means that it's a switch. So that's the EIS type, and that's what we trigger event in the environment special item 1, and that's a bit of code, pretty much a copy of the monster sign and S2D2. It's just slightly changed. So we'll open it up here and you can sort of see that it's exactly the same thing. So it was great having this bit of code. It just oh, that's one that's not used, sorry. So this is exactly the same sort of thing as the monster and item generation, except this time it generates a switch. and the set EIS type is what is put in here. It's transferred over through trigger event environmental special item, but then we set the EIS type. We set rooms that we want the switch to be spawned in, so it can only be either spawned in dungeon list 3, 4 or 5, so it's a random number between the lower room number and the higher room number, so it's between 3 and 5, so the switch has to be kind of later on in the dungeon, whereas this is the same bit of code but for the stairs, and the stair type we've just set it to 200. The stairs can be between 1 and 5, so the stairs can be pretty much anywhere in the dungeon, whereas the switch always has to be in dungeon list 3 or 5, 3, 4 or 5. So if it does a random number between 3, 4 and 5, and then if this item is equal to that number, and it triggers that event according to which dungeon list it's corresponding to, and it corresponds to, say, dungeon list 5. If it's 5, then it would do it 5e, and then that corresponds to dungeon list 5, which is room 21 to 25, and then it'll add this stair because it's set to 200 at some point, making sure that it doesn't spawn over anything that has been in the list before. So, and it's just there's an extra while check here to make sure that it actually tries to spawn in dungeon list 5 in a room that's been set. Remember, we have the array that's zeros and ones. It makes sure this EI setter while just make sure that it goes to a room that is set to 1. So if it's set to 1, then we know it is a room, and if it's not set to 1, then it's otherwise EI setter is equal to true. So then it'll just try a different room, and I'll keep going around that while until it makes sure that it sets. So that's the order that things get spawned in the lists. It goes the items, well, the barrels at the minute just, then the enemies, and then the environmental special items. So it seems that it's nearly bug free. I had a fair bit of hassle with it crashing, and it just froze my PC. So having those kind of event counters seemed to have, I thought, ironed out all the bugs, but again I found another one. Something I want to make sure is that, I don't know if you noticed while I was playing through it there, was that the arrows didn't die once they hit a door. So I fixed up the collisions a bit, collision groups and stuff, to make sure that enemies can't go through doors, and that enemies can hit spikes but they don't hurt the spikes, and the arrows can go through spikes and stuff like that. So I've tidied up the collision groups. If you like a bit more information on that, just drop a comment and I can do a video about collision groups and how to make different collision shapes for the different collision groups. That was to ensure that for spikes, or that was a good example of that, is the spikes, because you want the player to be able to walk over them but be hurt. You don't want the enemies to be able to walk over them, but you want arrows to be shot over them, but the arrows don't get hurt. So if that's something of interest to you, just drop me a comment and I can do a quick tutorial video on that. So we just basically need to copy this, duplicate, and when self hits a group of I wonder what the doors are in. Cannot remember, so have a look here at the closing groups I was talking about. Oh, so it's same as actor, and it is in everything but player. See, we don't want it to hit everything but player, because it would, well, yeah, we do. No, that'd be spikes, wouldn't it? Give it a go. Everything but player. That might make sense. that it dies when it hits everything but player, but it might mean that they die on spikes, which would be kind of lame. But there's ways around we can fix that. So what is left to do is, well, test this, and I also want to make one more enemy, and it's going to be a zombie. So I'll show you the sprite here. That's the actor. I haven't done any movement for it yet, so the sprite again is from the Oryx Design Labs Roguelike sprite pack. And what I want to do is that when the player comes near, the zombie's probably going to stand still, but once the player comes near enough to the zombie, then the zombie is going to follow the player until it dies or the player dies. So I will probably do that in the next video. Hopefully I can figure out why the bug with the switch in the room. I really don't want that to happen, because I think that means that my code's not working quite as how I think it is. If I can spawn a room that doesn't have any monsters or items in it. So we're getting there. A couple more bugs just to squash, and then I think we'll have something that kind of resembles a bit of a game that you can play, but there's so much more work to do. I want an upgrade system, leveling system, different weapons, collecting armor, and then different areas as well. So there's a lot more to be done, but we're definitely making progress. So I think I'll wrap it up. If you have any suggestions for the game, please drop me a comment in the comment section. Until next time, see ya.